Today we're going to be talking about automation platforms and which ones I recommend, why I recommend them, and just a bit of a run through really, just so that you've got a foundational understanding because this will be asked by clients and also kind of like deciding where you want to focus your automation agency. I say there's three, but there's loads and loads of these tools. Like Go High Level has its own section of automation builds, and actually it's possibly one of the cheapest because it's included in your subscription. Yes, they've got stuff that's external, but if we're doing anything in the realms of Go High Level or anything like that, we are doing it natively in their platform where possible, so that all of that's like done in there and nicely tidied away. Um, there is also loads of other ones. So if I just put one on each. Automation platforms. I bet the big three are there straight away. Yeah, mate.com. Helps if I can spell. Um, Monzo, Monday.com. I mean, Monday.com's pushing it really. Zapier. I mean, there's best 25 there, so there's definitely more than 25. There is hundreds of these platforms that claim to have this kind of level of automation in. These are the three, and I'm going to run you through why. So, first thing we're going to talk about is price. I'll do that in high to low. So Zapier is by far the most expensive. Sorry, it is. We'll come on to why later on, but it is the most expensive one. Then on Mate.com, who, when they updated their credits things, I was like, finally. They've noticed that NA10 is by far the cheapest and they're going to compete with that. No. The exact opposite, if anything. I think it's more expensive now. And then NA10. Ironically, we pay like 4 grand for this, but we've got thousands and thousands of automations being run on it. But from a pricing point of view, it is by far the cheapest, and you can locally host it. So 2,500 workflow executions every month, and it's done on executions. So the actual it pressing play charges you money, where Mate.com charges you for every single module that it goes through. If it goes through one module or a million modules, that's the cost. Then you've got the self-hosting options as well. So it's worthwhile doing when you're the bigger packages, hence why this is the one that we're paying for. But it's really good for that. So when you sign off, 20 quid a month, fine, you'll cover most of it. When you've got a couple of clients, 50 quid a month. If you're looking at 10,000 workflow ones, even if you've got a minimum of 10,000 modules, you're probably looking double that in Mate.com and probably nearly 3 times it on Zapier. So the main thing to kind of think about there. Then we'll do features. So Zapier is great and has by far the most plugins. It's it's a bit difficult because every single day the other platforms add more plugins. So every time there's a new plugin added to Zapier, there's one added to the other two. And Zapier is slowly running out of things to plug in. Or at least it's getting to the point where there's more generic stuff that's completely out there and separate. So, it's interesting to kind of think about, okay, in a year's time, will Zapier have anything else to plug in? Where NA10's got loads and they're rushing to plug things in. Um, but yeah, up to NA10 coming out, Zapier was the leading light in this. If they came up with chatbots, the rest were miles behind. If they came up with agents that you can technically chat with it and it will draft you out your automation, I say draft very vaguely. They are terrible. I mean, I've never prompted it properly with full context and stuff like that, but even the one on Make.com is terrible. Let's have a look at that. It's not on the homepage, but basically, there's a chat bot that you can get it to build the automation, and it'll just like populate all of the different modules for you, which in theory sounds amazing, but realistically boils down to being pretty mediocre, and it's missing a load of stuff. But anyway, back to the point. Make.com has loads and loads of plugins, way more than you thought it would. Like this time last year, and it's like building on that and building on that and building on that, and it's just kind of like putting this big pool of automations together all in one place. It is really quite awesome. And then, in fact, one last thing before we move to NA10. Make.com has been kind of lacking behind. Um, They haven't followed the chatbot section that Zapier has done. They haven't done anything like that. The agents took them months to come out with in comparison, and it's just been a bit disappointing. Like genuinely, mate.com, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're not. It's just been a bit disappointing compared to the other stuff that's going on. And then NA10 has somehow become the market leader of this. Their agents are out first, and by first I mean first, and then 6 months later, still first and the only one on the market. Yes, there's other ones out there now. Mate.com's brought their own one in. Zapier's kind of done the same kind of thing. But it took them ages, like way embarrassingly long to catch up with it. And since then, they've kind of stole this market share. And then you look at it and it's like, right, okay, well, why would we build it on there? Why would you build it on any of the other two when you build it on NA10? The only problem is, like, yes, it's showing you these lovely models that are all plugged in. You need to have some level of understanding of code to be able to plug in the HTTP requests and the GET requests and the things that where this just doesn't have the plugins yet. However, and the big however here is, we know for a fact the rest of them are running out of things to plug in. Like, there's only so many tools. There's only ever going to be so many tools in the market that need plugging in. So, how can we, if you're going to pick a platform to build these things in and stick with, NA10 is going to bring out more and more and more and more of these tools as we go. And the other ones are just going to get less and less and less. So, it's really interesting to think of it from that angle. Because Make.com and Zapier at the minute are relying on, Make especially, are relying on the fact that people have built it in here. I think it's prettier. I think for running through automations, and that's why you've seen me on TikTok and other places running through Make.com over the others. It's because it's prettier. I think the error handling's better. There's a couple more pros which we'll come to in a bit. But it just, I like it. The other thing is, we're kind of stuck in it now. We've got automations that I've built in there, or the team's built in there, that we're like, oh, I wish this was in NA10 now. It would be so much cheaper to run. But they've got us, and when the day comes along that there's a tool that actually converts them, when NA10 brings out a move all of your Make.com automations over to NA10 with a press of a button, like Make.com is like cooked. But yeah, one of the benefits of Zapier, which I don't think many people talk about, is the fact its compliance section is really bloody good. If you're working with big companies, banks, things like that, their data is all signed off at the highest possible level that we can get. Yes, the second you add ChatGPT in, there's question marks and it could technically go out the window. But if you've got a client that is concerned about data and where this goes and that and Zapier ticks all of those boxes technically. I always argue that it'd be better to use NA10 because you can self-host it, so you can have this on a cloud server. So technically, they can have it running on the company's own cloud, or even like physically run on a machine in person in the office, which to me it seems like it's way lower risk. But if you look at their compliance section, not great. Don't know why. I think it's just the fact it's less of a priority, and the tools that you plug in are just going to be like another thing that takes it away. But genuinely very impressed with that. Make.com's kind of middle of the road. It's like, oh, we tick some boxes. You can't self-host it, so it's like, meh. I've been really selling myself on Make.com today. But yeah, what are the other benefits? So we should probably touch on support. NA10 support is actually fairly good. Like, to get hold of a real human, bit of a challenge. But they've got loads of documentations and stuff like that. You could say the same with Make.com. Their human support is unbelievably slow to the point where I have never actually needed their support team to reply because I've already solved the problem the 4 days later that they come back. If I'm building an automation for a client, I can't wait 4 days for Make.com to come back and say, oh, well, have you tried this? And then wait another 4 days when I say, yes, I've tried that. And it take another 4 days. It's just painful. The documentation is really good. And actually, we use ChatGPT, trained on that. In fact, I can show you. We use ChatGPT trained on that. And it works really well. So if I click on Make.com here, this is built and has recently been updated, which is AJ Green. Really good. You can put in what you want. You can technically ask for the code and stuff like that. And that's actually more useful than the rest. There is also a Zapier and Make.com and N8N equivalent. With Zapier support, it's better. It's not amazing. Like these are SaaS companies tend to never be. Sorry, um, but yeah, it's okay. And there's lots of documents out there. There's arguably more YouTube videos on Zapier than there is the other two, just because I think it was there a bit earlier and kind of got in the door sooner. But yeah, that's kind of why I would go. Well, okay. So in conclusion, and I'm not going to give you a ChatGPT conclusion where you pick your own answer. If you are new to this and want something pretty to show to clients, I would go with Make.com. I would. It's prettier, it's nicer, it's easier, there's way less of a learning curve. If you're wanting something to build for your own company, you want something that's implemented in your own thing, I would go for N8N by a mile. Just because it's way cheaper, and if you get over that steep learning curve, it will be excellent and it will be the asset to build everything in. If you've got to be compliant, and this is the only reason you would use Zapier. If you've got to be compliant and work in a certain way, use Zapier. That is it. If you've got other variables, then just kind of think around that. But from a cost point of view, this is by far the best.